So these are the contents that we have for this webinar. So the first one is study on the architectural drawings. Study on this architectural drawings and the positioning of the columns and its framing. How can just we frame it, and then grades of materials and the properties, tips for columns and beam sizes, and then analysis and designing of G plus 10 floors building by using StatPro software, and then seismic static analysis, and then flow diaphragm action, and then manual design of ramps, study on the member failures and rectifying them, and then study on the structural drawings, study on the structural drawings. So these are the list of contents that we have, and we are going to cover all these contents in the next 7 to 9 days maximum. 7 to 9 days in the next, yes. Wait, don't worry about our dynamic analysis. We are going to begin our session. Don't worry about it. Just wait for some time, please. Do not post your questions. We are here to explain you everything. Yes, these are the contents we have. Study on the architectural drawings and the positioning of columns and framing, grades of materials and properties, tips for columns and the beam sizes, analysis and designing of G plus 10 floors building using StatPro. And these are the loads that we are going to consider, especially seismic static analysis. And of course, if time permits, anyway, we'll be focusing on dynamic analysis also. Don't worry about it. And then flow diaphragmatic action, and then manual designing of ramps, and then study on member failures and rectifying them, and study on the structural drawings. So there are a list of contents which are, in fact, we can even say these are the phases. These are the phases for designing a structure. These are the phases for designing this structure. Okay. Yes. Now let's go to this. So for today's session, these are the list of contents we are going to discuss, like architectural drawings and the finalizing of the structure system, and application of loads and effects thereof, load combinations, analysis, design, and then codes and provisions, detailing of the structural drawings, and construction method and site inspections, right? So we will be just having a brief discussion about all these phases or activities which are involved from the beginning of architecture, from the beginning of reading of architectural drawing to the reading of structural drawings. All those phases. We'll just have a brief discussion for today, brief discussion about the entire process design involved from the reading of architectural drawing to the submitting this as structural drawings, and of course including site inspections, right? Yes, let's go to this. And now, before we are going to design a structure, we must know what exactly designing of a structure means. Designing of a structure means. And of course, participants, most of the participants anyway have been attending all our webinars. More than 50% participants, I can say, have been attending all these webinars. So they are not of course not new to this first today's session. Anyway, I'm going to once again repeat it because there are remaining participants who are very new to our webinars. That's why I'm repeating this session. And design flow chart, right? So if I want to design a structure, what should I need to do? What do you mean of a designing of a structure? How can I start, or how can I begin designing of the structure? What is the information that I must be having it with me for designing it? So all this kind of a basic questions have to be first cleared, or we must be very clear about the process for designing of a structure. Once we are very clear about the process of designing a structure, then we can go step by step for completing the design, right? So designing of a structure means, in fact, there are like a stability criteria, strength criteria, serviceability criteria, and then finally detailing, right? So designing of a structure means first a structure or a structure element has to satisfy all these requirements like stability. Structure or structure element has to have has to be checked for the stability criteria. And the second one is a strength criteria. Third one is serviceability criteria. Finally, detailing, right? Finally, we have to produce a detailed drawings. With detailing means detailed drawings, structural drawings, right? Stability. When do I need to check the stability? What do you mean of stability? Stability is nothing but sliding and then overturning, right? Before we are ensuring either structure or structure element is having enough strength, we must first ensure the structure or a structural element or a component is stable. Stability in the sense of sliding and then overturning. First, a structure has has to be verified for sliding check and then overturning check. Usually RCC buildings or steel buildings, and of course we can say a framed structure. Framed structure, framing nothing but columns and beams connectivity, connecting all the beams and columns, connecting all the beams and columns together is called a framing system. It is a framing system. In the case of a framing system, which means building cases, usually we do not verify the stability criteria. We do not verify the stability criteria because since it is a framed structure, all the horizontal forces which are acting on the surface of the structure or which are acting on the columns and beam joints would be transferring from one column to other column due to the connectivity of the columns and beams, So that is why even though stability criteria is there as is mentioned, or we have gone through this stability criteria in our academics, usually we do not consider this a stability criteria for building structures or frame structures, because as we know that since the building structure is a framework structure, which is in fact a very integratedly connected each other with the beams and columns, those framing system are such kind of a framing system which enabling to transfer the forces from one end to another end. So such kind of a structure will have enough stiffness and strength, we can say enough stiffness and strength, which is transferring the forces from one end to another end. So that is why most of the occasions stability criteria is not really required to verify or to consider for the buildings design. However, we have to consider this stability criteria for the components or for the structures which are being affected majority by the horizontal forces. Examples are dams and retaining walls. Retaining walls, nothing but earth retaining walls. Earth retaining walls are supporting the earth, which is just provided, which is located backside of this wall. So such kind of a horizontal forces or the earth pressure which are acting on the stem, would be just providing or which would be providing a horizontal force. So when there is a very huge horizontal forces acting on a structural component, obviously it is more mandatory to verify the sliding criteria. So that's why we verify the sliding criteria for the dams and retaining walls only. Like horizontal force, again it sliding, the first criteria is sliding criteria, second criteria is overturning criteria. So these two kind of the criterion have to be verified for dams and retaining walls, because the dams and retaining walls are in fact not the framework structures. In the dam and retaining walls there are only two components. One is vertical member, that is a stem, and then the second one is foundation. That's it. One vertical stem and then there is one foundation. That's it. It is not having a kind of a framing system which we are normally noticing for the building cases. It can be RCC building, it can be a steel building, it can be a residential building, it can be a commercial building, any kind of a building. But all those buildings are having a kind of a framing system, right? So that is why we do not usually focus much on this stability criteria when we are designing a structure. And then strength criteria. Strength criteria means, what do you mean of strength? Strength nothing but every element or a structure should be having enough strength to resist the moments and then forces. When we say moments, what kind of the moments those are? One is a bending moment and the second one is twisting moment. Depending on the amount of the load and application of the load, bending moments and twisting moments would be developed. In addition to the bending moments and twisting moments, there are also forces would be developed. Those forces would be usually in the form of shear force and in the form of the axial force. Axial force means when the force is passing through the longitudinal axis. Of the member, then that force is called axial force. It can be an axial compressive force or it can be an axial tensile force, right? The best example for the axial force members or axial members are columns. Columns are vertical members which are connected with the beams, like this. All the loads that are transferring from the slabs will be transferred to this acting on the slabs will be transferred to the beam, and from the beams to the columns, right? So when the loads are transferring to the columns, just a second, please, 1 second. Yeah, thank you. Yes, then the loads transferring from the slabs, loads acting on the slab will be transferred to the beams, from beams to the columns, right? So columns are the vertical members or vertical compression members, which are in fact transferring the loads through the longitudinal axis, So that is why when we are designing the columns, we focus more on the axial forces. But when we are designing these beams, when we are designing the beams, we'll be focusing on more on shear forces, more on the shear forces. Shear force is nothing but force which are acting across the section. Or shear force is nothing but sharing or sliding the surfaces or sharing the surfaces, which is the cause or which is the effect, Usually we can notice in the case of the beams. Let me just show you here an example. So this is a beam like this. Here we have a beam like this, and the loads are acting on it. So this is a beam. Loads are acting on this. When the loads are acting on it, obviously this a shear force will develop, or this force is acting across this section, right? So this force is developing a kind of a shearing effect or sliding effect to the cross section of a beam. So that's why this force is called a shear force. Right? So in the case of the beams, we will take bending moments and shear forces. In the case of the columns, axial force is a more predominating force, and of course in addition to this axial force, there are also bending moments acting on it. So bending moments axial force combination is for columns design. Bending moments and shear force combination is for beam design. And the twisting moment is, of course, twisting moment would be developed when the forces or the loads are not exactly acting, acting exactly at the CZ of the members. Obviously twisting moment or torsion will be developed. So these are all the resultants. Right? For all these resultants, we have to design a member. Designing nothing but it should have enough strength. How can we say it is having enough strength? Which is depending on the grades of materials. Which grade of material? Which is depending on the type of material. What are the types of materials that we use? One is concrete, second one is steel. So that is why this is called RCC, reinforced cement concrete. It's a kind of a composite section. Right? So in the case of the RCC, which is a combination of concrete and rebar or reinforcement steels, now we have to design a member. It can be a column, it can be a beam. Means there are five structural elements like foundation, column, beam, slab, staircase. Foundation, column, beam, slab, staircase. There are five structural elements in a structure. All those structural elements now have to be verified for the design requirements. Like we should have to give enough strength to it. Giving enough strength to it, nothing but freezing or finalizing the cross section of the member and provide enough reinforcement. Into this structural element or a structure to withstand all these analytical resultants. Those analytical resultants are bending moments, twisting moments, shear forces, axial forces. That's it. That is what is called designing of a structure. So in addition to this strength criteria, it also has to satisfy this serviceability criteria. In earlier days, before we were using this limit state of design, limit state of strength or limit state design, we were actually using working stress method. And the same is called ASD method, allowable stress design method in as per American code books. Design philosophy is ASD, allowable stress design, which is in fact as per American code books. In Indian code books, we used to call this as a working stress method. And of course, we have been using this limit state design more than a decade. I can say very strongly, more than a decade, 15 years onwards, I guess, almost to 15 years, because IS 456 2000. IS 456 2000 was the code book, name, RCC code book, which was just released in 2000 only. So even if it takes almost 3 to 5 years of time to full-fledgedly using this code book IS 456 2000, we can still say since 15 years we have been using this limit state design for designing these structures, right? The same limit state of design concept is there, and of course is called LRFD methods. LRFD methods in the case of American code books. In the case of the American code books or American academics point of view, so that is called LRFD method, load reduction factor design, load reduction factor design methods, load reduction factor design, LRFD methods, load reduction factor design method, which is equivalent to limit state method as per Indian design philosophy, and ASD, allowable stress design method, is as per American design philosophy, which is equivalent to working stress method in the case of the Indian code books or Indian design philosophy, right? So why we are talking about this? Because now we need to talk about serviceability. Serviceability, earlier when we were designing this structure or structural components or structural elements, we were not having this serviceability criteria because our design philosophy was based on this working stress method, right? Later on, in the case of this, in the case of this working stress method, we had a factor of safety is more than, I can say 1.5, more than 1.5. In the case of a rebar or steel, for steel materials, 1.5, 1.7, sometimes 1.75. So those were the factor of safety that we have used in the case of the working stress method for steel. In the case of RCC or concrete elements, we had a factor of safety more than 2.5, I can say. It's almost 3 times. It's almost 3 times, right? So those were the factor of safeties which were really very huge when we were using this working stress method. So since this factor of safeties were very huge, the member sizes that were designed were getting this huge cross sections, right? So since the cross sections are very huge, obviously, in addition to this strength criteria, those will also have a enough stiffness because cross section of those elements are very huge. So that is why those elements were having enough stiffness. Since the elements are having enough hues or are having enough cross sections and the stiffness, and then this serviceability criteria was not really so important, which was automatically passed. But later on, due to this economical reasons and due to this sophisticated design philosophies, and since we are more concerned, and there is a very huge rapid change in the material grades. Since 2 decades, or we can say more than 2 decades. Since more than 2 decades, there is a very rapid change in the materials, in the material uses, and intentionally limit-state design philosophy was introduced to economize the design structures. I mean, to economize the design, or to economize this, or to save the materials also, right? So when we are when we were migrating from working stress to the limit state, obviously the factor of safety that we are using in the case of the limit state design are completely changed. We can say almost a 50% factor of safety are changed or reduced, I can say, right? In the case of the working stress method, it was 3. In the case of the limit state method, it is 1.5. In the case of the working stress method for the steel structures, it was 1.7 or 1.7. Sorry, 7.5 was the factor of safety for steel cases. And of course, as per limit state design, it is 1.15 only, 1.15. So there is a very drastic change. In the factor of safety. So factor of safeties, when we have a very drastic change or reduction in the factor of safeties, obviously the member sizes that we are designing would get minimum cross-section sizes. When there is a drastic change or dramatic reduction in the cross-section of the member, obviously, and of course, we are sure that we are designing those structural elements with highly sophisticated materials, like are high grades of materials. Maybe cement, maybe concrete, and then steel, and steel grades of materials, and those are anyway passing as per strength criteria. However, since those cross sections are very small, those are failing in the serviceability criteria. So that is the main objective or main intention for introducing this serviceability criteria in the case of a limit state design. Unlike working stress method. So conclusion from this slide is stability criteria is not really important, or in fact we can say not really affecting this general building cases. That's why we usually do not focus much on it. But this is very important in the case of a dams and retaining walls design cases, right? So that is the first conclusion from this discussion. And the second conclusion is strength criteria is nothing but fixing of the cross section of the members and then providing enough reinforcement into this structural element to resist this analytical resultants, which are bending moments, twisting moments, axial forces, and then shear forces. And in addition to this strength criteria, we also have a serviceability criteria. In fact, this serviceability criteria is in fact emerged in the case of limit state design, because in the case of the limit state design, the factor of safeties are dramatically reduced, which eventually made the sections with lesser cross sections. So those are getting passed in the case of the strength criteria. Since the cross sections are small, so it is also mandatory to verify this serviceability criteria is one of the conclusions from this slide. And finally, we have a detailing criteria. Means detailing in the sense, once we could design this structure as a structural element, finally we have to produce all this entire information, design information, like member sizes, grades of materials, general notes, along with this rebar diameters, spacing, stirrups, ties, hooks, links, and everything. That kind of entire information, like a kind of a skeletal information, which is in fact a heart, which is a more important information that is going to be sent to the site based on which structure will be constructed, right? It is also very equally important to focus on detailing requirements like convention detailing, which is as per SP34 code book, and then ductile detailing, which is as per IS 1390 code book, Though depending on the location of the structure, whether it is located in seismic zone areas or non-seismic zone areas, according to that, we have to prefer this code book. Right? So, and of course, we have no choice if the structure is located in seismic zone more than or equal to 3 in India. If the structure is located more than or equal to 3 seismic zone, then it is mandatory to follow IS 1390 code book, which is dealing with this ductile detailing requirements. Right? If the structure is located in non-seismic zone areas, of course, you can use only SP34 code book for detailing the reinforcements, for reinforcement detailing. If the structure is located in seismic zone 2 areas, seismic zone 2s, it is now optional. Or it is a choice of a structural engineer. Either we can design this structure considering this ductile detailing, or you can design this structure for based on SP34 detailing, But after this seismic zone 3 or more than or equal to 3, it is mandatory to follow IS 1390 code book. So this is a brief discussion about designing of a structure, right? So now I think it is clear to all of you what exactly designing of a structure means. So we just have to consider all this stability criteria, strength criteria, serviceability criteria, and then finally detailing. In our case, we do not have a stability criteria because the structure is a framed one, which anyway is having enough strength and the stiffness, with which it can withstand the sliding and then overturning forces or resultants. And strength and serviceability criteria are the primary criteria which need to be verified for designing a structure. And finally, we have to prepare a drawings based on this SP34 or IS 1390 code book detailing, right? So this is what actually designing of a structure means. So I'm just now pausing myself for a few minutes. Now tell me, you have any doubts, or is this clear to all of you? Is this clear to all of you, or you have any doubts? Can you just post a message? Can you please post a message here? Clear, Subham Zube. Yes, clear, Vijay Singh. Next, can you all please post a message here? Mr. Bhaumik, and then understood Bhuvaneshwari, Sharmila, Twisting Usman. I'll let you know, Sumit, and then there is a question from Vaibhav. What is the difference between detailing using IS over 456 and the SP34? So in fact, IS 456 is a code book from where you can just get the guideline for the design requirement, not exactly the detailing requirements. And of course, detailing requirements also mentioned in this IS 456, but in detail, there is a specific code book which is meant for detailing only. Means maximum spacing between the main reinforcement, distribution reinforcement, how can we provide it? I mean, all those pictures and the information is given in this SP34. These SP34 and IS 13220 code books are especially meant for detailing requirements. IS 456-2000 is a code book from which which is having a details for the design of a buildings, design of RCC structures, and guidelines are given in IS 45. That is for designing it. Here it is for detailing it. Here there are, I think, 3 to 4 questions. Yes. Yeah, let me just respond to your questions in 5 minutes maximum, and then we'll get into this topic again. Right? Yes, this is now done. And then settlement criteria. Settlement criteria under stability, not really. Stability is a settlement criteria has to be considered for estimating the bearing capacity of a soil. Bearing capacity of a soil. You can say it can be, it is not a stability criteria. You can say it is a serviceability criteria as per a geotechnical concept, geotechnical perspective. So based on this settlement criteria only, bearing capacity of a soil will be finalized. Bearing capacity of a soil will be estimated or finalized based on the stability criteria and then shear criteria. Avinash Dubey is saying, give an example of a twisting in a real structure. I can just show you, no problem. I can just show you this twisting in our structure itself. I can just show you twisting in our structure. There are in fact 2 types of the twisting moments. One is local twisting moment, and then second one is global twisting moment. I don't want to elaborate it right now because you will be understanding this global and then local twisting moments when we are talking about earthquake forces, right? I'll be talking about these twisting moments maybe after 3 days. Maybe after 3 days, I'll be talking more about twisting moments. I hope this is all right with you, Mr. Avinash Dubey, for now. IS 456 is in fact not for the detailing criteria. It is a design code book, design guidelines for RCC structures. Oh, thank you, Mr. Rajshekar. Muhammad Abdul is saying, sir, SP34 is only for reinforcement detailing. Yes, exactly. You are perfectly right. It is for reinforcement detailing. And Asin is saying full form of ULS. ULS means ultimate limit state. Nothing but ultimate limit state, nothing but strength criteria. Ultimate limit state, Mr. Asin, ULS means ultimate limit state, means strength criteria. Prabhat is saying, Mr. Prabhat is saying, can we use NBC, National Building Code? In fact, NBC is having a set of information with it. In fact, where the remaining code books are also part of NBC, I can say strongly. So we are anyway using this NBC, National Building Codes. Because Jadhav is saying, can we design a structure or a building without considering earthquake forces in any of them? Can we design a structure or building without considering earthquake forces in any? How can, when we are saying design, means structure should be structure or a structural component has to be designed. When we are saying designing means it should be having enough strength to resist any kind of the forces, with its combinations like dead load plus live load, dead load plus wind load, dead load plus seismic load, dead plus live load, live plus wind load, dead plus live plus seismic loads. So those are the list of combinations which are there under limited of strength criteria and then limited of serviceability criteria. When we are saying design means structural element of structure has to satisfy all these forces and the load combinations of criteria. Then only we can say the structure is designed. Mr. Vikas Jadhav, I think it is now clear to you. Lagnesh, regarding this deflection criteria and the cracking criteria, we will be discussing about it when we are designing this structure. Mr. Rishikesh is saying twisting moment is a predominant end. Which case? Very technically speaking, twisting moment Yeah, twisting moment. I can talk more about twisting moment when we are talking about earthquake forces. So I can say the twisting moments are more important in the case of irregular structures. In the case of irregular structures, we'll be discussing about irregularities and regular structures. Irregular structures. When can we say what is this global torsion? What is this local torsion? Such kind of the things will be explained after 3 to 4 days. Because if I start explaining it now, I don't think so that you will be receiving it. I don't think so. This is the right time also to discuss about it. IS 1390, no, not going to be covered. Mr. Madhav is saying SP34 is very old compared to the today's construction practice. Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you. But unfortunately, though codal provisions are given, I am not saying about all the codal provisions, but especially regarding this detailing codal provisions, which we do not strictly follow as per the guidelines given in the code book. Like let me say the distance between two reinforcement bars. Distance or clear distance between the two reinforcement bars as per SP34 or as per detailing requirements. The clear spacing minimum is diameter of the bar or maximum size of the aggregate plus 25 mm is the criteria to maintain a clear space between the reinforcement bar. But practically we don't do that. We will definitely go beyond that because there is a vibrator needle whose diameter would be more than that, right? So that is why even though it is becoming a very old, we still are following it because practical considerations would be completely different from the codal provisions, especially in the case of the detailing requirement. I believe the questions are slightly deviating from the discussion that we had in the last half an hour. So I request everybody to post a question which is very irrelevant to our discussion, and of course from tomorrow onwards you can post questions about the design criteria. Mr. Archit Singh, can we talk about these questions later because which are slightly deviating from the discussion? Anyway, I'll be answering them, but not really now. Questions are slightly deviating from the discussion. Please make sure your questions are very relevant to this, relevant to the discussion only. We can anyway discuss about them later stages. Yeah, now I'm going to stop it. Now I'm going to stop answering these questions. Let's now proceed. Don't worry. I'll be answering all your questions, but I slightly believe, or of course not slightly, strongly believe that the questions are slightly deviating from our discussion. Anyway, I'll be answering them, but definitely not now. Because the questions that you are posting are slightly advanced to this webinar in the sense, maybe after 2 to 3 days, yes, I can definitely answer your questions. Yes, so now design input details. Now we understand what is the design. Completely we have understood from this design flow chart. And now design input details. So for designing a structure, what is the information or the input details that are required are clearly mentioned here. Lagnesh, I will be responding all your questions later. Design input details. So now we understand from the previous slide what do you mean of design, what is this stability criteria, strength criteria, serviceability criteria, and then detailing, about which we had a short discussion. And now once we are anyway now very clear about the design procedure. So when we are clear, then how can I now begin designing of a structure? What is the input detail or what is the basic information that is requiring for designing a structure is completely given here. Design input details like approved architectural drawing. If I want to start designing a structure, the first or primary thing what I require or what a structural engineer require is approved architectural drawings and then interior details also. Architectural drawings have to be given to him or her, and then it is approved. Please note it is approved because there are always there will be always some changes we can expect from the for the architectural drawings. So that's why we are here. We are very clearly mentioning approved architectural drawings. Or otherwise, when we are given with this architectural drawing, when we start designing them, so there will be n number of revisions in the architectural drawings. According to that, we also need to change it. change our design. So that's why we are saying it is an approved architectural drawing. And then interior details also. Interior details also have to be given. Interior drawings and the architectural drawings have to be given to a structural engineer before designing it or for designing this structure. And then MEP drawings. MEP means mechanical, electrical, and then plumbing. MEP means mechanical, electrical, and then plumbing. Mechanical, electrical, plumbing. So mechanical drawings in the sense, for example, if it is a very so commercial spaces, for commercial spaces, usually we prefer a kind of a centralized AC condition and centralized AC, right? When we are having a centralized AC, obviously we have to provide a kind of a ducting system. I'll be showing them in the pictures in the next class. I'll be showing you them in the pictures. Ducting system would be provided. When the ducting system is provided on the soffit of the slab or bottom of the slab, obviously we have to consider hung loads or hanging loads. Just for better understanding, we are saying it is a hanging loads. It's not a hanging load. Technically, it's a hung loads, right? So those kind of the details that we can get from the mechanical drawings, right? Not only just these details, and for supplying or for for getting such kind of a, for making such kind of a centralized AC system, obviously we have to have a chillers or coolers. Chiller or cooler equipment usually are of course certainly required to maintain a centralized AC system, right? This is centralized AC system, chillers or coolers are required, and which will be usually provided on the top of the building, topmost of the building. We can say terrace of the building we can provide it. So such kind of the details can be verified from the mechanical drawings. And then electrical drawings also. We just have to go to this electrical drawings. If any kind of electrical drawings or electrical arrangements are affecting our structural design, and then we have to just relook into that, and according to that we need to design it. But I don't think so that electrical details would be affecting our designs, because I never have experienced such kind of the situation so far. And then plumbing drawings also are important, because depending on the plumbing facilities, we have to sometimes require to maintain a kind of a sunken slab. Nothing but let me say it is a slab like this. We have a slab like this. When we have washroom or a toilet, timing, let me say it is a slab now here, and we have a toilet. If I have a toilet, I have to make one step here and then one more step here, right? Here we have to keep a floor commode. It's a floor commode, right? It's a floor commode that we have to maintain. So right here it's a floor commode we have to maintain, right? So to keep this floor commode, we need to just have to fill this surrounding commode. Surroundings have to be filled, right? So this is the depth of the commode, or This is the depth of the commode. We usually would be around 9 inches. 9 inches, nothing but 230 mm. 9 inches to 1 foot. So if it is a 1 foot, or more than 1 foot, then we have to just before entering into this toilet, we have to make a step up. This is we can say, let us say it is a wall. We have to make one step here and then one more step here to reach this commode place, right? Which would be difficult for the old age people, to step up on this kind of a floor commodes. So that's why, just to accommodate this kind of a floor commode, we need to maintain, or we need to provide a kind of a sunken slab. Exactly at this point, whatever the depth is required for this commode, we have to just depress this slab, or make it drop in the slab, right? This is a slab. So this is what is called sunken slab. Why are we talking about it? Because we are now talking about the plumbing drawings. Because plumbing, nothing but pipe routing facilities or details should also have been mentioned in this plumbing drawings, right? So if that is the case, we can just accommodate this commode like this within this zone. Within this zone, we can accommodate this commode, right? Now you don't need to maintain, or you don't need to make a step up on this. So this is what is called sunken slab, sunken slabs. right? So this kind of the details can be verified in the case of the plumbing drawings. So this have to be, in fact, I'm not saying this is going to really affect our design, but this kind of the details have to be mentioned in the structural drawings, because based on the structural drawings only, structure will be executed, right? So that's why you have to just go to the plumbing drawings. According to that, you know, to make modifications in the structural drawings that are being prepared for sending to the site. So this is input detail. This is also input detail, and then design basis report. Design basis report means it's a kind of a report that has to be generated or that has to be prepared, wherein we can find entire information how we are going to design this structure, Please don't get confused between the design basis report and then calculation report. Design basis report and then calculation report. Design basis report, we are saying design basis report, right? We have to prepare a report, and we need to mention, we need to give this a set of information or complete information for designing a structure, and this design basis report has to be submitted to a client or third party verification. This design basis report usually be required when we are designing industrial structures, not the residential and commercial buildings, not the residential and the commercial building. This kind of a design basis report is more important when we are designing industrial structures. Let me say an example like power plant, thermal power plants. So before designing it, you have to just prepare design basis report, how when structure geometry, structure size, and then loads that you are taking, load combination, code books, and material test, what you are referring it, and every information has to be first clearly in the form of a report has to be prepared and to be submitted to a client. Client will be submitting this to a third party consultant. He or she will be verifying this design basis report, and if there are any observation from them from their end, they will be giving the observations. Once the design basis report is frozen, according to that approved design basis report, we have to now design a specialized structure which is there, or which is a part of a industry, which is a part of a industrial sector. Example is thermal power plants. So designing of a building is different from a designing of a cooling tower or a chimney or powerhouse building or boiler or turbine generator or whatever it is, STG buildings or whatever it is, maybe coal handling plant and whatever. All those structures are having a different or unique function, its own unique function. So now the designing concepts would be completely different. Not always we have to depend only on IS 456 code book. IS 456 code book is very suitable for only designing of a RCC building structures, means you can say commercial or semi-commercial buildings for these cases only. But for a specialized structures, there are again different kind of the code books that are available which need to be verified for designing them. So that is what the design basis report which is required before designing it. So you have to prepare this design basis report, submit to a client. Client will be submitting this to a third party verification. He or she will be verifying that and will be just giving observations or approved. Once design basis is report is approved, obviously designing of a structure will be done based on the details or based on the approved design basis report. And then calculation report means once you have done or once you have designed this structure, now once again you need to prepare one more design report, that is in fact has to be called like a calculation report. But there is a kind of a tradition happening that design basis report is a calculation report. I mean, people are just getting confused with these two words. So calculation report is different from the design basis report, right? So calculation report means that is a report after we have designed the structure. After we have designed the structure, that entire report has to be submitted to a client. Again, that will be sent or submitted to a third party consultant or a proof checker. Proof checker will be going through the details or the design, calculation report for verifying the design output details, right? That is what the design basis report. And then finally, soil investigation report is also required. Soil investigation report is also required for designing this structure, right? Especially for designing the foundations. And skills, these are the list of the skills that we need we need it, like reading of architectural drawings. I very strongly believe that it is not, even though we have enough knowledge in the structural designs, we in fact always be bit fearful when we start designing any kind of the structure. The biggest thing here is, or the biggest thing that is trying to stop us is a lack of a knowledge on reading of architectural drawings. So when we have a lack of knowledge on architecture, reading of architectural drawings, obviously we don't begin designing a structure because we don't know what are the data given in this architectural drawings, right? So that is a primary skill requiring reading of architectural drawings, and then Vastu and then municipal rules. We have to have a basic knowledge on all this Vastu and then municipal rules, and then we also have to have a theoretical knowledge and then manual calculations, because it doesn't mean that we have to always depending on the only softwares. Even when you are depending on the softwares also, we need to pre-assume the member sizes. How can I just assume the member sizes when I don't have a theoretical knowledge with me? So, right, so I have to have enough theoretical knowledge based on which I can just prefix the member sizes, and then based on those trial sections, we'll be running the analysis in the softwares. It can be a STAR or it can be ETABS, right? So if you have enough theoretical knowledge, then our accuracy levels would be very better for fixing up the member sizes. Once you can fix up the member sizes based on the theoretical knowledge we have with us, run the analysis and then check the design results. Then more than 70 to 80% of the accuracy, or more than 70 to 80% of the members will be passed. Members will be passed. How is this possible? That is possible when we have a theoretical knowledge with us, right? And then manual calculations also, and the software skills. And of course, all of us know that there is a very huge demand for StatPro, ETABS, and then MIDAS softwares. So software skill also has to be with us. And then conventional and ductile detailing knowledge, and then construction methodology and site inspections. It is not always we always think that when we can design the structures, maybe just sitting in the office by using this softwares, definitely we are one step away from being called as a complete structural engineer, because we have to have a knowledge, more knowledge on the construction stages or construction sequences or construction procedures, because not always we would be just considering on this coded provisions or guidelines, everything. There are so many things which are in fact the setbacks or limitations, which are the things which need to be considered during the designing of your structure. So that's why it is also important to have a knowledge on this construction methodology and then site inspections, right? Even though we designed it very well and we prepared the drawings completely error-free and drawings also submitted to the site, and then obviously if the structures are not executed as per the details given in the structural drawings, there is no use of just keeping the efforts from the structural engineer's point of view, right? So that's why structural engineer sometimes has to definitely make a site visit, especially when there is a key activities are running in the site, right? So skills related to this also has to be improved. Yes, thank you. Finally, we have reached this point. We have reached this architectural drawings details. If you can I just pause now, or can I continue it for 5 minutes more? Can I pause or can I continue it for 5 minutes more? Can you just respond? Can I continue or can I stop it now? Now we are now entering into this designing of this structure. Yeah, continue. Yes, pause. Can continue, yes. Okay, let me continue this, because anyway, it requires us, every session requires a repetition for 10 to 15 minutes. So I'm just going to continue for 10 minutes more. Just bear me for 8 to 10 minutes, right? So these are the details. These are the structural, architecture details that we are considering, that we are referring for designing this structure. So type of the building that we have chosen is building type is a commercial complex. Facing of this structure is north facing plot, and then building size. Means before we are going to design this structure, this is the basic information or the basic knowledge we have to first, basic information first we need to gather before designing it. Like, what is the building type? It's a commercial complex. Which face is this? North face plot. What is the building size? It's the 3 basements, ground floor plus 6 floors, total 10 floors. 3 basements, ground floor plus 6 floors. In fact, this is the original terminology. 3 basements plus ground floor plus 6 floors. 3 plus 1, 4 plus 10 floors building, right? And then plot area. What is the plot area? Plot area is 100 meters by 34 meters, which is almost 3,400 square meters, which means 84 cents. So this is what the building is. This is what the building is. See, this is a commercial block. So we have to spend enough time for understanding or for reading these architectural drawings. I very strongly recommend to spend enough time to go through the details given in the architectural drawings first. Spend enough time, more than enough time on reading of architectural drawings. So which will definitely be more benefited for us to prepare a structural modeling. Or otherwise, if it's just start opening this start pro, once you receive this architectural drawing, I'm sure you'll be just committing blunders. I'm sure of it. So that's why you just spend enough time for reading this architectural drawing. So I'm just going to show you this architectural drawing, but not going to discuss much more about it for today's session. AutoCAD files will not be shared at all. I'll be sending you this PDF files. You will be definitely receiving the entire information. Don't worry. You will be given with this standard files. You will be given with this structural drawings. You will be given with this architectural drawings also. Don't worry. Whatever information is requiring for you, definitely that will be shared. Right. So let me just show you a few options or a few details about this. I'm not going to make a deep talk about this architectural drawings for today's session. So this is like, yes. So this is the elevation. So this is the elevation, and this is one more cross section. Here is the cross section. Just go through it. Stop posting questions, please. Focus on discussion. See, this is the north side elevation. Just go through it. I'm not going to explain anything for now. Just I'm going to explaining you the brief details. It's a north face, north side elevation. And this is a cross section. In fact, it is a longitudinal section, section AA. And there is the basement. This is basement 3, 2, 1, and then this is ground floor, which we can notice from here. See, basement floor 3, basement floor 2, basement floor 1. Because this is the entire area meant for parking. If a parking area provided or allocated below the ground level, so that is called either cellar or basement areas. If a parking area is provided at the ground level or on the ground level, then that is called a stilt. S-T-I-L-T, stilt. S-T-I-L-T, stilt. Stilt is nothing but that is a floor or a area meant for parking only, but that parking is provided on the ground, not inside the ground. So basements are meant for parking area, but inside the ground, under the ground. And these three are the basement level 3, basement level 2, basement level 1, and this is the ground floor. So this is a ground floor, and this is a ground floor, and heights of these floors also given very clearly. So this basement floor 3.5 meters. This is 3.5 meters, and the first basement floor is 4 meters, right? And this is the ground floor, and this is, now you can just see all of this information like this. This is the first floor level, right? So this is a basement 3, 2, 1. This is a ground level. Here we are at the ground level. First floor, second floor level, third floor level, fourth floor level, fifth floor level, sixth floor level, and then this is not the fourth floor. This is a terrace level. This is not the fourth floor. This is a terrace level. This is a terrace level. See, so this is how we have. We also have a kind of a lift, which is in fact starting from this location. We have a lift also starting from this locations, right? Yes, this 1, 2, 3 basements are for parking areas, and then ground floor is for shop area, and then ground and first floors are meant for shopping areas, which are mentioned here, and the remaining space is for office area. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. 5 floors are mentioned for the office area. This is for office area, and this is for shop area, and the remaining 3 are for parking areas, right? So this is a cross section. I can say my longitudinal section, and this is one more cross section here. Section BB. This is section BB, where we can identify this staircase locations and the lift locations, lift and staircase locations. Basement 1, basement 2, basement 3, and ground floor, and floor to floor height is also mentioned 3.36 meters, 3.36 meters, 3.36 meters, 3.36 meters, which means it is which is having 11 feet height, which is having 11 feet height. 3.35 or 3.36 meters means 11 feet, which means 11 feet height, which means 11 feet height, right? So this is the long section and this is the cross section, and this is the north side elevation. This is a north side elevation, which means the details are given from the ground level only. See here, we don't have any kind of a detail. Basement details are not mentioned here because it is an elevation. Elevation means the projected surface above the ground. Projected surface above the ground is elevation, right? So here it is a north elevation. Here we have again floors and then floor to floor height and everything is given in this picture, right? So this is the elevation. This is a long section. I can just show you here. This is a elevation. This is a long section. This is a cross section, and this is typical floor levels. I can say these are the typical floors. I can just show you from here. So this is for the ground floor plan, and we will be talking about we will talk more about this ground floor plans in tomorrow's class. So ground floor plan, first floor plan, and then typical floor plan, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. The floor plan is very same from the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. All these floors are having a typical floor plan, means floor details are very same, right? And then this is a terrace floor. This is a terrace floor. We can see this is a slope also, slope. So for draining the water, this is for draining the water, right? So this is an open terrace and this is a slope for draining the water, right? So this is a ridge point, nothing but the center point where we are maintaining this highest level, where we are maintaining the highest level in the waterproofing or a screeding of it, I mean waterproofing level. And this water will be now drained, right? So this is a terrace floor plan. So this is a ground floor, first floor, second floor, and then this is from the second, third, fourth, fifth, and then sixth floor plans. And this is a terrace floor plan, long roof section. This is a cross section. This is the north elevation. This is one drawing, and I can just show you the plans of basements in the other drawings. So this is the ground floor drawing, and this is a basement 1, basement 2, and then basement 3. Basement 1, basement 2, and then basement 3. So this is the ground level. Right, this is the ground level. You can say, you can just look at these points again. This is this hatched portion, affected area under the road widening. I'll be talking about these terms like road widening, and then this is setback, and this is a commercial block, and about this parking zones, right? Parking area, this is a tot lot area, transformer area. All this will be explained in tomorrow's class, right? And this is a ramp, how the ramp is connected to the cellar 1. This is a ramp connected to this cellar 1, and this is a again ramp connected to the cellar 2, right? I can just show you, just to make you more interested. I'm going to show you this STAT file. So this is the STAT file that we have used for designing this structure. Right? See how the structure is now designed. So this is what we are going to design in the next few days. I can say in a week of time, most probably. Right? See how this is. How this one is. Basement 3, 2, 1, ground level, first floor something, and this is for parking areas. And here we can have a kind of a ramp locations, right? This is a lift headroom, and this is a staircase headroom. See, this is more the structure that we have designed for this building, for this architectural drawing details. So this is what that we are going to design. Yeah, I'm going to now stop my session for now.